Xiao Zhan returns, and what he said about Shen Yue and Bai Lu left everyone speechless. No one had seen it coming. Not the fans. Not the media. Not even the people who thought they had moved on. It was supposed to be just another quiet afternoon in Shanghai. The skies were gray. The headlines were stale. And Shen Yue had just finished wrapping her final scene when the assistant director whispered in her ear. "He is here." She froze. Because in all the scripts she had read and all the scandals she had endured, nothing had prepared her for this moment. Xiao Zhan had returned. No warning. No press release. Just a single black SUV pulling up outside the studio. The man stepping out of it looked older than the last time fans had seen him. Sharper, quieter, and more dangerous. Because time had changed him, and silence had only sharpened the rumors. Some said he left the country after what happened with Bai Lu. Others said he vanished after his final fight with Shen Yue. No one knew what was true. Until now. Because now he was here. And he was walking straight through the studio gates. No sunglasses. No security. Just Xiao Zhan. And, in that moment, every unfinished story came rushing back. It wasn't just the way Shen Yue's hand trembled when she saw him. Or the way Bai Lu reportedly left her agency early that same morning without a word. It was something else. A storm that had waited long enough. And now it was ready to break. They say the meeting was unplanned. That no one told Shen Yue he was coming. But a whisper leaked from a staff member on set. She had been crying the day before. She had received a letter. Signed with a name she hadn't seen in over a year. And now the sender was standing 10 feet away. He said her name once.
Softly. Shen Yue.
And, the moment he did, everyone around them seemed to disappear.
She didn't speak.
Not at first. She stared at him like a ghost had come back to life. Then, finally,
she said,
"I thought you were gone for good." He looked at her and replied, "I was. But I heard what she said about you. And I had to come back." There it was.
She.
And every fan knew exactly who that was. Bai Lu. Because days before, a quiet interview had aired online. One where Bai Lu was asked what she regretted most about her past collaborations. Her eyes had lowered and her voice had cracked. "There are people I failed to protect. People I hurt not because I wanted to, but because I was too afraid to lose someone I thought was everything." That clip had gone viral. But now it had become more than words. It had become the reason Xiao Zhan came back. Because what no one knew was that the last person he had seen before he disappeared was Bai Lu. And what she told him then had changed everything.
Now.
He was standing in front of Shen Yue. And she was asking the question everyone else was afraid to. Why now? Why after everything? And his answer left her speechless. Because it wasn't a love confession. It wasn't an apology. It was this. Because I saw what she became after I left. And I saw what you became after she broke. You two were never supposed to be enemies. You were both fighting for something I couldn't give. And now it is time you hear what I never said before. The room went silent. Crew members stepped back. Phones were off. No one dared interrupt.
Then,
he reached into his coat pocket and handed Shen Yue a worn photo. Not of them, but of Bai Lu. Taken years ago on a forgotten set. Behind her, in the photo, Shen Yue stood, looking away, and scribbled on the back in faded ink were 6 words. They were never meant to fight. She looked at him, eyes brimming, voice barely above a whisper. You kept this. He nodded. And what he said next broke her. I kept everything. Because I was waiting for the moment I could finally fix what I destroyed. That was the moment she collapsed into him. Not out of love, but out of something deeper. Release. The weight of months of silence. Of twisted rumors. Of fake smiles and shattered scripts. All falling away. The cameras didn't roll. The crew didn't speak. They watched a moment that wasn't written. A moment that was real. Then a voice from behind startled them. It was Bai Lu. She had come after all. And when Shen Yue turned to face her, the two women just stared. No words. No hostility. Just the sound of everything they had never said roaring between them. And then, Bai Lu walked up to Xiao Zhan, looked him in the eyes, and said, "You made your choice. Now live with it." She turned to Shen Yue and added, "But I am done letting him make mine." And with that,
She walked away.
no tears, no drama, just the final sentence of a chapter that had been rewritten too many times.
Xiao Zhan didn't follow.
Shen Yue didn't stop her, and the silence that followed was louder than any scandal. What happened after that remains a mystery. Some say Xiao Zhan and Shen Yue stayed back and talked for hours. Others say she walked away too. But what everyone agrees on is that the return of Xiao Zhan did not bring resolution. It brought truth. Uncomfortable, messy, and necessary.
And now,
The fans are asking, what happens when all three truths finally collide? Because the story is far from over. It has just begun. And this time, no one is safe. The sun had started to set, but the heat hadn't broken. Inside that studio, no one moved. Not the director, not the assistants, and definitely not Shen Yue. She stood frozen, staring at the door Bai Lu had just walked out of, as if she was trying to breathe in all the words that had never been said between them. Xiao Zhan stepped forward, his voice low. "You still love her, don't you?" She didn't answer. Not with words, just with her silence. And that silence was louder than anything else in the room. She turned to him slowly, her voice cracking. "I don't know what I feel anymore. You were gone, she broke, I shattered, and now you think one conversation can stitch it all back together." He looked down. "Maybe not. But I had to try. Because what you and Bai Lu had before I came into the picture, that was real. I was the one who didn't understand it until it was too late." She stepped back. "So now you're playing the hero. Coming back to undo everything like we're still who we were. But we're not." And that's when someone else stepped in. No one expected Dylan Wong to be there. He hadn't been scheduled that day. He wasn't part of the project. But he had been watching from a distance, waiting, listening. And when he entered the room, even Xiao Zhan flinched. Because there was a time Dylan would have laughed at all of this. But not anymore. Now, his eyes carried years of silence. He walked past everyone and stopped in front of Shen Yue. Then he looked at Xiao Zhan. "You should have stayed gone." Xiao Zhan narrowed his eyes. "You think this is about you?" Dylan didn't blink. "It's always been about me. You used Bai Lu to get close to Shen Yue. And now you're using regret to make yourself feel like a man." Shen Yue turned to him, her voice trembling. "Dylan, please. Don't start this." But it was too late. Old wounds were wide open now. And they were bleeding words. Xiao Zhan stepped forward, fury burning under his calm tone. "You think you protected her. You think staying quiet and pretending to love her made you a better man. But I know what you said to Bai Lu behind closed doors. You wanted them both to break. So you'd never have to choose." The room went cold. Dylan's fists clenched. "That's a lie." Xiao Zhan pulled out his phone. "Then explain this." He hit play. And the voice that came through the speaker made everyone freeze.